The fog came early that year, thick and slow, like breath that never faded. It rolled over the hills, slipped through trees, and wrapped itself around the forest like it meant to stay forever. It clung to the windows of the old ranger cabin, turned headlights useless, and made the world feel smaller than it was. David didn't mind. He had lived alone for 6 winters now, and fog meant fewer visitors, fewer questions, fewer memories sneaking in when he wasn't looking. The world outside was quiet, and that was how he liked it. He had coffee, firewood, and silence. All the things people ran from, he now held on to like old friends. His cabin stood at the edge of the tree line, not far from the bend in the gravel road, where no one turned anymore. It creaked in the wind, moaned with the weight of snow on its roof, but it still stood, just like him. He spent his mornings gathering firewood and walking the paths he knew by heart, the same trails he'd once patrolled in uniform, the same trails his wife used to walk beside him. Before the diagnosis, before the leaving. Now it was just him, the trees, and the low hum of fog pressing in from every direction. That morning, something felt different. He couldn't say why. The fog wasn't heavier. The cold wasn't sharper. But as he stepped outside with his mug of black coffee and the steam rose to meet the mist, he paused. There was something at the edge of the tree line. Not a shadow, not a noise, a presence. He blinked, looked again. Gone. The feeling stayed. He didn't see the dog until the 3rd morning. It stood just beyond the porch, half hidden in the fog, unmoving. A mutt, lean and dirt-covered, with one ear bent oddly and fur matted in patches. Its eyes were dark, not scared, just tired, like it had been walking a long time. David froze in the doorway. The dog didn't move, just stood there, watching. He took a slow step forward. The dog stepped back, not far, just enough to keep the distance. "All right," David muttered, rubbing his hands together. "You're real." He went back inside and came out with half a piece of dry bread. He set it down at the bottom step, not too close. The dog stayed put, unmoving. Back inside, David watched from the window. An hour passed. Then another. At some point, he looked up and the bread was gone. So was the dog. He said nothing, felt nothing, just poured himself another cup of coffee. The next morning, the dog returned. Same spot, same silence. David didn't speak this time, just nodded, left a bowl of water and a bit of leftover stew on a tin plate, and walked back inside. He didn't look out the window, didn't need to. Something had changed. He didn't know what, but he knew it wasn't going to leave easily. And maybe he didn't want it to. They never touched, not for days. David left food. The dog showed up, ate, watched, left. Each day, the fog sat between them like a curtain neither could pull back. David wasn't sure when he started talking. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was the way the dog looked at him, never blinking, never judging, just listening. "I used to have a dog," he said one morning, setting down a plate of boiled chicken. "Golden retriever. Smart as hell. Died the day after she did, like he couldn't stand the quiet." The dog tilted its head, just a little. David chuckled. "Didn't think I'd talk to another one." The dog didn't move. He didn't give it a name. Not yet. That felt too permanent. But he started waiting at the window a little earlier. Started opening the door before the knock that never came. And one day, he found himself putting an old blanket on the porch, just in case. A week passed. The fog never lifted. The dog never left for long. David found prints in the snow, trails from the edge of the woods to the porch, like it was circling at night, like it was staying close. That morning, he saw something new. Around the dog's neck, collar, torn, faded red, barely hanging on. He hadn't noticed it before. Maybe it had been buried beneath the matted fur. He stepped outside. The dog didn't move. David knelt down, slow, cautious. "I'm not gonna hurt you." The dog flinched when he reached out, but didn't run. His fingers brushed the collar. Cold, damp leather, no tags, just a rusted loop where one used to be. "Who left you?" he whispered. The dog stepped back, turned, vanished into the fog. David stood there, hand still in the air, like the moment hadn't ended, and something in his chest hurt. The storm rolled in without warning, heavy, loud, and fast. Thunder cracked across the forest like splitting wood. Rain hit the roof of the cabin so hard it felt like it might come through. David had spent the day hauling wet logs up from the river bend trail. His coat was soaked, his boots caked in mud. The fireplace crackled as he dried off, the air thick with smoke and damp wool. It wasn't the first storm he'd weathered alone, but something felt different this time. He looked out the window, through the fog and rain. No sign of the dog. For the first time in weeks, a chill moved through him, and it wasn't from the cold. He opened the door and stepped into the storm. He didn't even know why. Maybe guilt, maybe worry, maybe something older. Something he'd kept buried since the day she left. And he let himself grow numb. He called out once, then again. "Hey!" No response. Just wind. He walked toward the woods, flashlight in hand, boots slipping in the mud. After 20 minutes, he gave up, turned back toward the porch. That's when he saw it. Curled beneath the stairs, soaked and shivering, dog. Its eyes blinked slowly. No bark, no fear, just trust. David knelt down, arms open. "Come on!" And for the first time, the dog stepped forward. Not just toward the food, not just for shelter, toward him. That night, dog slept inside the cabin. Not close. Not on the bed or by the fire, but on the doormat, curled into a ball, finally dry. David didn't sleep much. He kept listening to its breathing, slow and even. Like a heartbeat he'd forgotten he missed. He made breakfast the next morning. Eggs, leftover potatoes. He split it without thinking. The dog ate at his feet, and when David spoke, it lifted its head like it understood. "You're not what I expected," he said. "But then again, neither am I." He started calling him Fog. It wasn't official, not a name with a collar or a command, just a word he used when talking to something that had finally filled the silence. Days passed. The dog stayed. David found himself smiling without realizing it, found himself watching old movies, heating soup, shaving his beard, little things, quiet signs. And one day, he sat by the fire, dog at his feet, coffee in hand, and whispered, "I think I needed you." The dog didn't react, didn't need to. The fog outside still covered the trees, but something inside had cleared. It was supposed to be a normal walk. The fog was lighter that morning, the sky showing soft streaks of sun through the gray. David felt better than he had in months. He took the old trail through the northern pine line, Fog trotting beside him, close, calm, quiet. Then came the noise, a crack, not thunder, something else. Fog froze, growled. David turned in time to see movement. Fast, too fast, a deer, wounded, darting between trees like a ghost. And behind it, another shadow. Wolves, thin, desperate, wild. Fog took off before David could speak. "Fog!" The name tore from his throat. He ran after him, slipping over leaves, heart pounding. He found them at the edge of the ridge, Fog barking, standing between the deer and the approaching wolves, tail low, body tense. David shouted, waved his arms, threw a rock. It worked. The wolves backed off, slowly, watching. Fog didn't move until they were gone. David dropped to his knees. "You stupid, brave thing." He held the dog's face in his hands. "You're not just mine," he whispered. "You're everything I forgot I could love." Fog leaned into his chest, and for the first time since the accident, since his wife, since the life that felt like someone else's, David cried. They made it home just before dusk. Fog limped a little, nothing serious. David cleaned the paw gently, whispering nonsense to keep them both calm. The fireplace warmed the room. Outside, snow began to fall. He found the old photo album that night, one he hadn't opened in years. He turned the pages slowly. His wife's smile, their dog, the cabin, when it was still new. Fog sat beside him, watching. "This was me," David said, "before I let the world win." Fog rested his head on David's knee. "You brought me back," David whispered. Without a word, he cut the torn collar off that night, threw it into the fire. Then he pulled out a leather strap from his drawer, an old belt. He cut it carefully, shaped it into a new collar. It wasn't perfect, but it was theirs. The fog began to break a few days later, not suddenly, slowly, like something waking up after a long sleep. The sun returned, touching the tops of the trees. The snow melted just enough to show the path again. People began to drive through the forest road. Hikers, campers, lost tourists. David didn't mind. He started helping again, giving directions, lending maps, sharing coffee. Fog stayed close, always watching. One morning, a little girl visiting with her father reached out to pet him. Fog wagged his tail. David smiled. He realized he hadn't felt afraid in weeks. Not of the past, not of the silence, not of being needed. He wasn't just surviving anymore. He was living again. They took one last walk together before the season changed. The trail was muddy, the trees bare, the sky stretched wide and clear. David didn't say much, neither did Fog. They walked in step, man and dog, shadow and soul, down the same path that had once felt like the edge of the world. Now it felt like the beginning of something else, a quiet promise. When they reached the ridge, David looked out over the trees. "You brought me back." Fog sat beside him, still, loyal. David reached down, ran his fingers along the new collar, and whispered, "Let's go home." And together they walked back through the fading fog, no longer alone. For anyone who's ever felt forgotten, this story is for you. Like, comment, and share if it touched your heart.